Hello, everyone.
Hi everyone. This is Maximus, my campaign manager.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Prince Sefa-Boakye. I am in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, sitting inside the headquarters of Miss Joanne T. Pomodoro's campaign headquarters. Excuse me.
Right.
As you know, we're having the general elections here in East Boston. Miss Joanne is a social worker, but also a lifelong resident here in East Boston. She has a lot of things that she wants to do here in East Boston. So, Joanne, first of all, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Max, campaign manager, for being on the show.
He's going to steal the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, guys, well, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell my audience why you're running for state rep.
So my name is Joanne Pomodoro. I've lived in East Boston all my life, 62 years young. And I went to school in East Boston. I went to high school in the North End. I went to college at Northeastern and graduate school at Boston University School of Social Work. I'm running because I have a lot of concerns about our community and the fact that I'm concerned about selling East Boston to developers for profit. That's one of my concerns.
Right.
I have another concern about education and mental health and the budget cuts that are happening. We're having more and more issues with mental health and less services.
So tell me, what makes you qualify for this position?
Oh, well, glad you asked that. Maximus has something to say. As a social worker, I am qualified as a change agent, they call us. That's someone who helps people to helps them with their problems, helps find solutions, helps heal from trauma, helps to become empowered, become proactive versus reactive, to take charge of their life and become independent. A lot of our community is becoming learned helpless, we call it, and that means that there's a dependency on other services and agencies, and if we can help people to become more empowered, then their lives are going to be fuller and better.
Wonderful. So tell me, what led you what led you to run for state representative of East Boston?
Well, I've been part of many community outreach programs. We had a crime watch group here in East Boston on our block, and that was a very interesting undertaking. And of course, I'm a leader, so I kind of led that group. I've also, like I said, I work with my clients all the time. I mean, as a social worker, we work 24/7, actually. We're on call, I'm on call, and I can be reached. And I think part of the job as a state rep is that you're accessible and reachable. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that I've been to so many community meetings, and the concerns I have somehow get not heard. It's not top priority, and so as a result of that, I've just decided, listen, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give the people that are underserved, people that feel like they don't have a voice, to start to have a voice, and through representation, I'll represent that, and I will stand up for the people that feel underheard, or not heard, and underserved.
Great. Well, thank you so much. So what are your three biggest issues that you are advocating for as the next state rep of East Boston, which the people of East Boston should remember?
The number one, of course, is health and wellness in our community. Again, the services have to be better. We need more issues, more education around addictions, more help around depression. I'm seeing children with more anxiety. The pressure on them with the MCAS exams, they shouldn't be walking around feeling so pressured to pass a test versus to want to learn. And that's one of my concerns. Another concern is that all of our property in East Boston is being eaten up and sold to big developers who are coming in, building these huge developments. They're offering maybe 10% to affordable housing. The higher is luxury housing, and then there's nothing really for middle class, especially in East Boston, people would like to stay here. They can't afford to stay here. There's nothing that helps them stay here. So I'm advocating for a voucher program that was done many years ago that will allow people to maybe stay here, and they would get an opportunity to do so as middle class as well. So I just feel that they need representation.
Right, right. And so you have a third one, or is that?
I have a third one, which is that I would like to work with somebody, and I have a architect who does urban planning. And she is excited to work with Boston to bring the community together. We're fragmented. We have all these pockets of different neighborhoods and cultures.
Right.
We don't have a center. How can we bring that center together so that everybody, inclusive of all our cultures, can get along, can get together, and understand each other and learn from the good parts of our culture?
Right. Okay, great. Well, now let's get into some pressing issues here in East Boston. One of them is actually snow removal.
Yes.
This has been I've been asking all my candidates as far as the recent snow we've had, and this is probably the worst season. And I heard that we broke our own record, I believe.
We did. Yep.
High time record.
Yep.
And what was so terrible about it was the ineffectiveness of snow removal.
Right.
So, what is your plan of action to ensure East Bostonians effective snow removal?
So yes, it was the worst winter, I think, so far. Of course, I'm 63, 62, so we've had a lot of bad winters.
Okay.
What we used to do, I think one of the problems was parking. There was nowhere to park.
Right.
And so people were on side streets. And then when they were on side streets, they couldn't get out because the plowing wasn't so great. So then they were stuck there. But then on the main arteries, we had to move our cars. So that put everybody on the side streets. People couldn't get their cars out. So what we did years ago, again, I'm a historian, I guess, we would park on the odd or even side of the street. And every snowstorm it would switch so that at one time the plows could get closer to the sidewalk and they would clean the streets. Then the cars could move over there. In East Boston, we have so many more drivers. Every house probably has 2 or 3 drivers per apartment. As a result of that, there's an influx, and we have to do a better job. How do we do a better job? I think that a lot of other things we have in the state are overfunded, and we have a lot of abuse, and we have a lot of fraud. If we start tightening up, I think we can release some of the monies that really need to be back in the community again, once again. Okay. So I have a plan for that as well.
Great. Okay. Now, the second issue is diversity. I think you already touched on it. As you well know, we have a burgeoning diverse community in East Boston. However, I feel there has been a great gap between City Hall and also the communities of colors here. So what will you do to close that gap and so that every voice in East Boston is heard?
That is a great question. Culturally, we have so much, and everybody wants to bring it together, and there's no place to bring it together. And you're right, City Hall and the State House, maybe they miss it. Maybe it's not a priority. But cultural centers, I would love to have a cultural center here. We need that. We need a lot of things to bring the community together. We need a vocational school for kids that aren't destined for college. Community togetherness, inclusiveness, stakeholders joining together for a common bond.
Great, great. And then my last pressing issue, which is quite personal for me, is trash on the streets. So every time that I walk on Meridian Street to Maverick Street or whatever, maybe Bennington Street, I always see trash on the streets, especially trash that should not be there. So my question to you is, what is your plan of action to clean the streets of East Boston? And what will you do to condone littering?
What's your plan?
I have no plan. My plan is, well, I'm actually.
Oh, you're asking me. Okay. Well, as a citizen or as a resident, I would hope you'd pick up yours. Or you clean up in front of your house.
I pick up my trash.
Well, I appreciate that's the first step. If everybody takes care of their own in front of their homes, again, I call an investment back into your own community. We're all stakeholders here. We all share. And I think some people respect that, and I think some people don't.
They don't.
It's tragic because these garbage bags that are opened up and thrown, strewn all over the street. There used to be fines. We don't do that anymore because I think the city is so they don't have enough staff to come around. Inspectional services is not what it used to be.
Right. So you plan to recruit more?
With trash. in our area alone, we had a rodent problem. Came from all the construction. To get someone to come down and address that was difficult. It was on our property, so it was our responsibility, and yet it came from the development.
Right.
So I just say that we have to take more ownership, and the city hall and the state house has to work together with the community to take pride. It's about pride. It really is. So we've got to have a pride initiative, and I think it's everyone contributes and takes responsibility and helps each other out.
Okay, well, if you do become state rep,
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you to it.
Okay, all right. You mean when I become
Yeah,
state
when
rep?
you
That's
do.
what you meant to
Yes,
say, right?
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
So now I want to take this time to answer some questions from the Twitterverse. And first of all, I'm going to answer Twitter questions that I asked before in the previous interviews. So this one comes from Kevin Frank. And he says, how can we make sure that development along the waterfront benefits the people who already live in East Boston?
So when talking with the urban architect that I spent a few hours with, but the other day specifically for East Boston, she had a great suggestion. She talks about how we bring the community together. The waterfront is part of all of ours, and it shouldn't be just restricted to the ownership of the property that's being built there.
Right.
So again, opening the spaces up, preventing these developments from eating it up and taking it all up. And I want to prevent the selling of East Boston, and that's for profit, and that's what I think is happening. We have to build with a purpose, not just build for the sake of having housing. The waterfront is our most sacred area. I think my mom used to say if they could tax us for the view, they would. It needs to be open. It needs to be available to everybody. And I would definitely, as I said, working with an urban planner, I would definitely have, she's willing to come and work with us. And I think that's a great step. So I think I've taken the initiative to do that, to find out, get answers, and have a plan better than the one we have right now.
Great, great. Thank you. My next question comes from John at John FPC. And he asks, what is your plan to help the middle class stay in Eastie with the rapidly rising housing costs?
Which is one of the issues we talked about when we first started. So they call it gentrification, and the middle class is being pushed out of communities. You see it in Southie, you saw it in the North End. How do you ensure that that doesn't happen? Well, that has to do with the development and the planners before they're approved. What's happening here is that the plans are coming to the neighborhood to look at what we're going to do, not to say, this is what we'd like to do, and how do you feel about it? So we don't get a say in that. We get a say when it's already been built, or the plans have already been agreed upon. We need to do this before it happens, before it's on paper, before it becomes a projection. We have to be part of the solution. They have to be part of the solution and not the problem. How do we do this too? Again, I say we've got to have some discounts for people that live here, that have lived here and want to stay here, and not cater to the luxury condos. Things are for rent right now, not for purchase. And if we have more renters, they're not stakeholders in our community. And a stakeholder is someone that will invest in the community. I'll talk about the next question after, but I'd like to give an analogy.
Okay. Well then, I have another Twitter question. This comes from, I can't pronounce it,
That's
but
okay.
Doi Wan, I believe. And he asks, your policies/policies seem aligned with Democrats. If that is the case, why did you choose to run as an independent?
Well, we don't get to choose how we run, really. When I was 18, I registered as an independent. The reason I did that was because I wanted to be able to choose the issue, not the politician, not the person, not a party, but an issue. And if someone had something that I was concerned about and I was in line with them, then that's the way I voted. So I've been an independent all my life, and that's the way I'll stay.
Great, thank you. And then also he asks you, as an activist and a non-professional politician, what do you bring to the table as a candidate for a political office?
I bring personal connection. I don't I don't make a blanket speech.
Mm-hmm.
I speak from my heart. I am not a professional politician, but what I am is a professional social worker. As a professional social worker, I'm an expert at being able to help people. And that's what I bring to this job. That's what I bring to the community. I would keep doing what I'm doing as a change agent, as someone that cares about their clients, no matter what culture, race, economic status, issue. That's what I do, and that's what I'll continue to do.
Great, great. Well, those are all my Twitter questions. And before we leave, take 1 minute to convince or to tell my audience why they should vote for you at the end of the month, March 31st.
A couple of days.
Yeah, a couple of days. Excuse me.
So I would like, first of all, I want to say that there's a lot of abuse in our system.
Mm-hmm.
I have particularly targeted some of the issues with the EBT cards, with Department of Transitional Assistance. Why was that agency not audited? And a lot of members of the State House did not. They voted against that being audited. There's huge waste there, huge waste and abuse, and it's got to change. I want to see a lot of things change in that respect. Massachusetts number one is also one of the highest in having the number of people on a board. Most cities and towns have 2 or 3. We've got 5 or 6. We don't need that many. And the other thing I want to say is that investing in the community through, maybe becoming a stakeholder. If you rent a car, you don't really care about how that car is, right? That's the analogy of people when they rent a car. They beat it up, it comes back. You would never buy a rent-a-car. I don't think. Would you buy a rent-a-car?
It depends. If
okay,
it's a nice
that's
car.
a great answer. Oh, maybe you should run for politics.
No.
The analogy just is that if you invest in something, you have ownership in it. And so if people are coming here to live for 3 months or for 3 years, they need to be have ownership in our community. That's what a stakeholder is. That's what a community does. And I have a voice to do that. And I feel that, I make mistakes. I'm not perfect, but I think I am perfect for the job.
Great. Well, Joanne, much for being here and answering my questions. If my audience wishes to follow you, where can they go? And also, when do they need to vote?
Okay, so March 31st is voting day. And they can go to Joanne Pomodoro 4, the number 4, staterep.org, or they can just Twitter me or catch me on my Facebook.
Great. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. Thanks, Prince.
Well, no problem.
You're great.
You.
You're great. We're going to play the guitar now, so we'll see you guys later.
Right.
Take care.
Until next time, be good and stay classy.
Yeah.